Since the dawn of time, every man wants to be a macho man, to have the kind of body always in demand. That truth defines one of the most obscure of the Mystaran monsters, the Stalwart. They appear in the Creature Catalog from 1986, the green one, written by the same Brits that brought us the fever dream that was the Fiend Folio. So it makes sense that the Creature Catalog, with the 2 extra vowels at the end, has some head-scratching designs like a large humanoid that just wants to get his flex on everywhere. Unfortunately, the original design was lacking. The concept was never fleshed out. Well, I started this channel to fix continuity issues, and a random jock roaming around the world looking for someone to spot for him definitely needs to get fixed. So take your creatine, grab your rosin, and let's rewrite the Stalwart. Welcome to Mystara. I'm Mr. Welch, and it's not my fault I'm the biggest and the strongest. I don't even exercise. So what's the official canon for the Stalwart? To quote, Stalwarts are a race of tall, about 7 feet, muscular humanoids obsessed with the idea that they are physically superior to the other races. To test its superiority, a Stalwart will challenge any group of humanoids of similar stature it meets to appoint a champion for a physical competition of their choice. If the Stalwart wins, it will demand a tribute of half the opposing group's non-magical wealth. If it loses, it will serve them for 1 month in any way that does not involve danger. If the humanoids refuse the challenge or refuse to pay up, the Stalwart becomes increasingly angry and will eventually attack. That's it. That's everything we know. There's a list of sports they will compete against you in, mostly like racing, arm wrestling, rock hurling, lawn darts, archery, or log rolling, and the test is a simple skill check. Before we had skill checks. Roll a d10 and add the appropriate stat, and for Stalwarts, all their physical stats are 16 to 23. Which is a bit of an oversight because Beckme didn't give rules for stats over 18. In combat, they fight with a club that does 1d6 damage for a creature with 9 hit dice.
Boring.
Stalwarts are a blank slate because their entire purpose can be served up by a roided-up barbarian. They have no special rules, their attack sucks, and they aren't the brightest bulb in the pack as their intelligence is only a 6, back when it was the only stat most monsters ever had listed. They wear leather armor and carry a club, but seem to know how to use the bow despite not having one. Their art looks like a large human man with a curious choice of trapezoidal armor. So where do they come from? What's their reason for being obsessed with proving their physical might? What's their place in the ecology of the world? Well, let's ask the people who wrote it.
I know nothing. Nothing.
Fine, I'll do it myself. Everything past this point is all me, so take from it what you want. Stalwarts are a race of Giantkin, most numerous on the continent of Divania, mostly in the southern regions known as the Greenwood. They are not the only Giantkin mentioned in Mystara, as Firbolgs are canonical and also found in Divania. They were mentioned once, in passing, in a single line. The Firbolg, not the Stalwarts. They don't even get much attention, and our Firbolg resemble the Uber Vikings of the olden days. Actually, most people's Firbolgs look like the Uber Vikings. Those goofy cow guys with the drinking problems didn't show up until 5th edition. But back to the Stalwarts. They stand between 7 and 8 feet tall, putting them around the average size of a Giantkin, as tall or taller than Firbolg or Voidkin, but a foot or two shorter than Firbolg. The Firbolg in all editions previous to this one, as the 5e Firbolg, are the same size as the Stalwarts, but still count as medium creatures. Because God forbid wizards let you play large creatures in this current game. That line of thinking gives you pony-sized centaurs that can ride other centaurs. That's in the rules as written right now. Stalwarts appear as brutish humans with a very defined musculature. They are incredibly nimble for a giant type and stronger than their cousins, as well as far hardier. They heal quickly, recovering from injuries that would kill a lesser creature. They don't even scar no matter the wound. All Stalwarts wear light armor and clothes that won't interfere with their athletics. Their obsession with athletic activities evolved from their physical abilities. They are known to be almost impossible to kill. This one trait defined their culture from the earliest years. There was no point in waging war to determine who would lead them, because everybody had the annoying habit of standing back up after a few minutes ready to fight again. Battles could take days with very few casualties on both sides. This led to the creatures developing their own code of conduct when conflicts arose. Stalwarts learned that settling their disputes with violence was pointless. They could heal faster than they could injure each other. So the law of challenges was adopted. Stalwarts would see who was faster, stronger, or nimbler in a simple contest. These challenges would be of a sporting event of the challenged party's choice, with the victory conditions decided in advance or given by an impartial third party if the two parties couldn't agree. This refined Stalwart society, as the pointless battles they used to engage in faded into memory. Now they base their culture around athletic competitions. These contests started to dominate Stalwart life, from choosing a mate to selecting their kings. They still trained with weapons, though they would rarely need to use them. Archery was a common contest in their challenges, and many of their sports involved seeing how hard they could hit something with their ceremonial great clubs. What was lacking was any form of combat sport, because that was deemed as useless as fighting with weapons. This means disputes are settled quickly, as refusing to follow the terms of a challenge, if defeated, results in exile. Issuing a challenge can be appealed if the issue is spurious or trivial. These go to a tribal leader who will decide if the challenger is wasting everyone's time. If the matter is found to be made on bad pretenses, the challenger will be treated exactly as if they'd lost the challenge. If the contest is deemed to be valid, then it will proceed normally. There's no stigma in seeking the judgment of the chief, as the challenged party faces exile if they refuse the decision. Because of the penalty for wasting the court's time, most challenges are only made in serious situations or if the two stalwarts are friendly with each other. There are repercussions to this way of life. Since their chief has decided through traditional contests, they aren't well known for their judgment or their intelligence. They are the strongest, nimblest, and toughest stalwarts in their village, but they might not be the best leaders. Since most of their young life is spent trying to maximize their physical abilities, a good number of them are illiterate, and the race has no written language of their own. They lack a large number of professions that don't require physical labor. Stalwarts have no word for library. Both parents raise their children equally, often turning child-rearing activities into competition of sorts. Every stalwart father has a personal best time in changing a diaper. This leads many of the neighboring nations to view them as dim-witted brutes. But it's not that simple. Most of the stalwarts found outside of Devania are exiles, and these outcasts hold on to their race's fixation with physical excellence, but not the reason for it. The Giantkin that get exiled from their people are not the best examples of stalwart leadership material. These are often self-obsessed bullies who will not accept the consequences of losing. The Law of Challenges has detailed instructions on what happens when someone loses a challenge, but also restricts the kind of punishments or costs that can be dealt out. Those unwilling to accept defeat but demanding all the spoils of victory aren't welcome in their society. The more intelligent or charismatic stalwarts will often rise in power as they can find weaknesses in their rivals or goad them into making poorly thought out challenges. The stalwarts have a strange relationship with the other races in Devania, as they find many of them weak and not worthy of their time. They will still hold to the rules of the Law of Challenges if the foreigner invokes it, but few other races can compete with a stalwart in physical activities. They don't tire easily, they can hold their breath long after other creatures drown, they're stronger than other Giantkin, and they can perform acrobatic feats that creatures of their size just shouldn't be able to do. But if you wish to issue a challenge, they will accept it. Just don't expect them to take it easy on you. Despite their size, stalwarts rarely, if ever, engage in hostilities towards other races. They know they are physically superior to just about everybody else. There is no glory in beating people up known to be weaker than you. They can be goaded into violence and will defend themselves with lethal force if necessary. Most of the nearby races know better than to try this. Even if they're employed by others, they will not fight for them. They will not deny someone else's chance at glory by taking away the spotlight. They will be happy to sit in your corner and shout words of encouragement. You're the one that wanted to fight that ogre. They're not going to steal your thunder no matter how much you plead. In addition, the stalwarts know their strength. They don't want to cause an accident by thumping someone a little too hard. If an orc hits a stalwart with a club, the Giantkin is going to be up and about in a matter of minutes. The stalwart would knock a few feet off the orc's height if the situation was reversed. They have little use for magic. They can still use it, they're not afraid of it, but they don't see a need for it. They're tested on their physical traits. If you can cast a spell to run faster, they see that as the magic doing the work for you. They rarely need clerical magic because of their natural endurance. This doesn't mean they will turn down the services of a wizard, but they won't think of asking them for their help to begin with. They respect magic, but they have little need for it themselves. It's their firm belief that they should face their own troubles as a personal challenge. If they fail, they need to get better so they can overcome it. They know how to deal with wizards, if threatened by one. They use the shot put as part of their judicial system, after all. A mage sitting back behind the lines will find themselves unexpectedly dead when somebody caber tosses an entire oak tree at them. And there's not a DM out there that will let you claim that that is a normal missile. Stalwarts never fight as a group because of their focus on individualism. Not that this hinders them, each one of them is more than capable of taking on multiple foes at once. They aren't a common race to encounter, especially not on other continents. The exiles are an exception to this rule, but even then they're not numerous. Stalwarts have no eyes on conquest, and their neighbors are smart enough not to antagonize the commune of rather large cross-trainers across the street from them. There is some trade, but they don't produce much in the way of finished goods. The one thing they will trade for goods is physical labor, something that has proven to be highly profitable, especially if they can turn it into a contest. A farmer that hires a trio of stalwarts to harvest his crops will find the task done in hours instead of days. And I'm not saying they do a rushed job either, because how well they accomplish a task is just as important as how fast they do it. Fixing them in the game rules requires more than a bit of tweaking. The stalwart presented in the original books is one of the exiles, not a good example of the ones you would typically meet in their settlements. Verbekmi increase their damage from a d6 to a d6 plus 5, and their hit points are always maxed out. The suggested 9 hit die stalwart will always have 72 hit points. If you are using the skill system from the rule cyclopedia, add a minimum of 5 levels to the appropriate physical skills. Lastly, they heal completely on arrest, though this isn't true regeneration as they can't regrow lost limbs. But if you put one down to 0 hit points and don't spend an action to finish him off, he will get back fully healed in about 8 hours. For 5th edition, all the physical stats are going to be a 22 minimum. They have the same rule about having maxed out hit points. There is no average amount for a stalwart, unless you mean all 153 hit points. They regenerate 5 hit points a round, and this is not affected by fire or acid like a troll. And if they take a short rest, they recover all their hit points. The only way to make sure that they stay dead is to hit them while they are at 0 hit points, as they get death saves. They've got athletics and acrobatics as skills with specialization, and possess a climbing and swimming speed with a resistance to poison. They will never strike a foe who's at 0 hit points unless threatened with deadly force, though. That's my fix for the stalwart. They aren't going to be a common creature, but they aren't roid-raging morons either. They have a love of competitive sports, but it beats hitting each other with sticks for a week straight in a futile attempt to win a fight. They are less physical threats than the guy teeing off on the 7-mile-long 8th hole for fun. That's a par 3, by the way. They are physically superior to other races, and they restrain themselves from abusing it, as they are firm believers in weight classes. Next week, we are headed to one of the nastiest locations in Mystara, Malfegi Swamp, the one with all the lizard men, where all the monsters hang out. Until then, can somebody spot for me?